What's up, everyone? Welcome into episode 3 of Around the Octagon, our UFC 301 recap. We got a full house today. Ryan, Luke, and Zach in the house, ready to break down 301 in Brazil. It was a fun card. I was happy with a lot of the fights. You know, I know coming off 300, there was probably a bit of a hangover. The crowd wasn't great down in Brazil, but still a fun night. And we're gonna break them down because that's what we do. And we're gonna start off. Alessandro Costa gets the win by knockout against Kevin Borjas in the first fight. I know I had Costa. I did have my points, though, so I was wrong there. But ultimately, Costa kind of took over at the end of round 1, and the leg kicks really set him up for success in this fight. Zach, what did you see in this one?
Yeah, those leg kicks were absolutely brutal. If he didn't end up knocking him down and finishing him on the ground there, he was dropping him eventually with those leg kicks. That was brutal. But there's not really too much else to say besides that. He just chopped him down and finished him there.
Yeah, I mean, with all the hype, and not even hype, but like the way Costa looked fighting against Erceg in their fight, you expected a lot out of Costa, and he absolutely delivered. There's not much more to say about it. He did what he was supposed to do. He finished Borjas relatively easily, and he made it look like a good fight. And I think he took home a performance of the night for that too. So happy 50K.
Yeah. And I always personally like just like good fights to start off cards. You got to set the tone. I know me and Colin have lost a lot of money on first fights of the night. So you like,
Ain't that the
get one
truth?
out of the way.
Mhm.
And also just, a good knockout to start the fights. So
Yeah, absolutely. And Costa was able to take it home with the ground and pound. Next, Ishmael Bonfirm versus Vink Pichel. This was a fun fight. You know, Bonfirm looked good, had fast hands, but Pichel did say in the corner after, I think it was round 1, he doesn't hit that hard, and he did eat a lot of shots from Bonfim. And, Bonfim really dominated a lot of clean combos, including to the body, used some flying knees, ultimately got the UD in this one. Is the Bonfim hype real, guys?
I mean, that was just pure domination from Bonfim. If you look at the strike splits, he just walked around the octagon and punched him in the face. But Jesus does makes Michelle have a chin. I mean, it does make sense though. He is 41, but the guy is not a very active fighter. I think he has like 17 or 18 professional fights, so it's not like he's been worn down for too much or for too long. But I also do think it did take a minute for Bonfim to really settle in there. Like it seemed like the first 2 minutes, like he really wanted to go out there and get a highlight reel KO in front of his home crowd. And then as soon as he settled in and became more patient and selected his shots, I mean, he found a lot of success there. But I mean, is the hype legit? I mean, I think he's a very solid prospect, but I don't think he's going to be anything elite in the future, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, Zach, I definitely agree with you there. I mean, good fighter for sure, but I think his hype pretty much got sucked away once he lost like pretty easily to Benoit Saint Denis, who's now like one of the top prospects in the lightweight division. So like, can he hang with like these older guys? Yeah, and beat these prospects coming up, sure. But I mean, I guess he just has to get tested again to see where he's really at. But overall, good performance out of Bonfim.
yeah, I think he's still young. I think, he's still green enough that I mean, we've seen it. We've seen it with Brazilians, especially with Oliveira and guys like that. Like you get tested, you lose a couple, people count you out, and then you end up having a great career. So I think it's too early to tell how the rest of his career is going to go. I just like what I see. Every time he's on a card or his brother, I feel like you're going to tune in. They're good prelims.
Absolutely. Next, Dion Barbosa defeats Ernesta Caracate by UD. So the Brazilians start off this card in their home country 3-0. This one was a really close fight, I thought as well. I mean, Barbosa looked really good in the first, kind of dominated, backpacked Ernesta. But Ernesta kind of took over towards the end of the fight as Barbosa got tired, but ultimately the judges gave Barbosa the second round, which got her the UD. Your guys' thoughts here, Zach? I know we were watching this together. We were upset. We thought Ernesta got it done, and it kind of busted our parlay. It was the last leg to start it off, but it was a tough one for us. But Ryan, I know you were happy with this decision.
I really wasn't.
In my
I thought it
opinion,
was a robbery.
it was a complete robbery. You said it's a really close fight. I honestly didn't think it was like that close. I thought Ernesto clearly won round 2 and clearly won round 3. I think every single commentator agreed. I think every single person on Twitter or X agreed. But you know what? Congratulations, Ryan. You got to benefit off the robberies at some point, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there you go. There you go. I've been on the wrong side of those a few times, but hopefully I can get one to roll my way.
Yeah, I mean, coming out in the first, obviously, Barbosa looked like she was the favorite in this fight. Like she knew what she was doing, controlling her. It was pretty much domination in the first round. And then as the fight got on, she definitely got tired. And it was like one of those where you're watching and like knowing you have money on Barbosa. It was like I was sitting there. I was like, I'm clipped. This is it. She lost. I was fully convinced that she lost, but the judges ended up giving it to her. Unanimous decision, I think, is atrocious. But it's just that hometown advantage, I guess.
Yeah, I really have nothing to add. I didn't have money on this fight. But for, first women's fight of the night, I thought it was very entertaining. I also liked how Ernesta kind of grew through the fight. Obviously, how tired her opponent was, but she was stopping those takedowns in the second and third. I agree. I thought she had it. I was with people who had money on it, but, you know, anything can happen in Brazil.
Ain't that
Anything could happen with these judges, man. They got to fix that soon. But,
Yeah, I'm just looking at these fights. I cannot wait to talk about this next one.
Yeah, man. Mauricio Rufy versus Jamie Malarkey, a first round knockout. And wow, it was a flawless performance, winning performance of the night bonus. The karate stance looked clean. He looked really good out of it. A lot of nice strikes. He dominated on the feet, had a nice flying knee. And I honestly felt like the fight should have been stopped sooner because he was raining down some heavy shots. Your guys' thoughts on this? And, Rufy in his future in the UFC.
I love that karate style stance. It looked so sharp. You just could tell the dude has the precision. Found his shot, put him out. I'm excited to see like how they got a fast track. Like, where does he go next? He looks too good to be going out and fighting like trash cans, you know?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I mean, he looked damn well phenomenal. That little scissor sweep takedown, that was clean. Like he looked so good. He was just having his way with Malarkey. But in terms of what he does next, I really don't know. It's crazy when you see a fighter like Dean Thomas, I think said it like near the end before the finish. He was like, he's giving me shades of McGregor, which is like a crazy compliment to get, especially making your UFC debut. Uh, do I want him to get fast tracked? No. I mean, he's proved like he's an exciting fighter. Maybe they slow roll him a little bit before jumping him into some like really heavier competition, but overall, like very good prospect to watch out for.
Yeah, for sure. I had a buddy of mine make the same McGregor comparison right before Dean Thomas did, but I just love when you talk about McGregor, you talk about like his style, the hands down, but he always talks about the in and out of windows and how he enters and then he's out before like the famous Aldo quote, I'm gonna be there and then I'm gonna be gone before he even knows I was there. That's what Rufy did, and it was just amazing to watch and to start this card. I think this is the last card in the early prelims. This got me fired up for the rest of this card. I don't, in terms of what he does next, obviously the debut, he's 27, so he's kind of on the older side for a UFC debut, but Malarkey's no pushover. He's been in wars. I don't know. He's not obviously not top 15 candidate. I think you got to give him a couple more unranked fights, but this is a guy that's like immediately on watch.
Yeah,
The takedowns
definitely.
are there. Obviously, we didn't get to see a lot on the ground. I don't know how previously in other, sponsorships how he's done on the ground, but this is the next guy for me coming out of Brazil. It's like you're highlighting every fight he's on, every card he's on.
Yeah, I'm telling you
No,
right now, the matchmakers are definitely licking their chops, seeing what they can do with this guy next and what card they can put him on. Definitely an exciting fighter.
so the superstar potential is very much there. I mean, exciting fighter all around, put on an exciting fight.
Did he say something about Islam in the post?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he
What
told
did
him
he
to watch.
say?
He told him to watch out. He said, "I'm coming
I
for you
like
very
that.
soon,
Yeah, it's
very
good.
Like
soon."
I like the
He
call
said,
outs that aren't like, hey, I want to fight you next. Like that's a bunch of
when
BS. But
he finished. I think he finished. It was Islam's boy and teammate on the Contender Series, and that's how he got his UFC contract. So he was like, "I already beat your boy. You're next. Come on." It was like one of those call outs. So see what
love
happens
that.
there. A few years, that'd be pretty sick.
That is, I like that.
Yeah, that's cool. You don't hear that very often from guys making their debut, but you got to respect the balls on Rufy there, huh? Joaquim Silva versus Drakkar Close. Drakkar got the nod in a unanimous decision. He was patient in round one. He did land some bombs. a lot of clean combos, but Silva also landed with some big strikes himself. You know, Silva almost finished him with some ground and pound, a submission attempt, but could not get it done. And ultimately, the American pulls it out, the favorite. This was big for my parlays. I don't know about you guys, but I was really pumped with this decision.
Yeah, I had close winning round one, obviously, and winning round two, but he was starting to fade in round two. As a guy who bet on him, like as you said earlier, Ryan, we were talking about when you were talking about the Ernesta fight, and you're like, yeah, I was sitting there and I saw her start fading, and you're getting
Yeah.
nervous, and you're sitting there. That's how I felt watching this fight. And I mean, you could see in round three he was tired, and that guillotine looked sunk in round three. I thought Silva had him in that guillotine, but popped his head out, was able to survive. Happy he did, solely because I bet on him. But
I was to be completely honest here. I didn't really get to see too much of this fight. I was on my way back home from golf, so I tuned in round three. I'd like read the scorecards on X, and they had close up like 2-0 for the majority. But like when I turned on my TV, like you said, Zach, I see him in this guillotine, and then I watch him like jump backwards and try to like I don't even know like knock his opponent out, And I was just like, ah, shit, we're cooked.
Yeah,
That
usually
thing
you're
looks
screwed there.
yeah, it's like this thing's sunken in, like he's done.
yeah, I
Yeah,
thought that one
same.
was over there.
That move was crazy. I think that's the biggest takeaway from this fight for me is I was like, what is going on? And same, I was on the way to a casino, so I was watching on the phone. We were cutting in and out, and I couldn't tell who was winning. And I was like, oh, he must be completely losing this fight. And then you're like, oh no, he's winning. Why would he do that? So fight IQ not on a premium UFC 301.
Yeah, nah, definitely not.
Yeah, I think that's a common takeaway here. Let's move on to the next one. Elvis Brenner versus Maktabek Oralbai. And Oralbai dominated this fight. I was curious why he kept going for all those takedowns because he looked really good in the feet and he was stunning Brenner quite a bit. But then he had that could have been very costly fence grab that if Oralbai didn't knock down Brenner at the end of the third round there and potentially steal that round, it might have been a draw. And that would have screwed me in a lot of ways, in a lot of my bets. So thank God didn't ultimately affect him and he was able to get the knockdown at the end. But Oralbai did look really legit in this fight.
In my opinion, it would have been a draw if he didn't get that last second knockdown. I did not think he was winning that third round. It was very close, don't get me wrong. But I think that knockdown sealed him the round. But how big of an idiot do you have to be up 2 rounds to none? You know you're up 2 rounds to none. Rounds one and two were dominate. You dominate him with the wrestling. He looked huge. He just looked way stronger. Like even when he got reversed, the dude literally just stood right up. He was just way bigger. He cruised through those rounds. So your fight IQ there, like you're up 2 rounds to nothing. You know, like all right, even if I lose this round, I'm still taking on the fight, and you get yourself deducted a point because of a fence grab. And it's kind of hard to do that because you will get warned, like, hey, stop grabbing the fence, and you go and do it again. Back to the fight IQ, that was just very poor. But I'm happy he got the win. He looked good.
Yeah, I mean, Orbai looked great. He came out there, did what he's supposed to. That point deduction on the fence grab rubbed me the wrong way in a pretty big way, just because that was his first one. You see so many fighters get warnings for it. Like should you grab the fence at like you shouldn't grab the fence, it's part of the rules, but like they give fighters so much leeway. You know what I mean? Like you see warning after warning, and then like it's very rare that they take a point. But I mean, I guess kudos to the ref for just stopping it in its tracks as soon as it started, but could have been a very costly decision. And if you're Muktabek Orabai, like that does kind of suck in a sense because you see all these fighters get so many warnings for grabbing the cage before getting a point deducted, and he did it once, and that was it. It was just immediate point deduction.
I'd imagine at some point previous in the fight, I'd have to like go through and look, but I'd be very shocked if he wasn't warned at some point throughout the fight. Even if his hand was just pressed on it, not even grabbing, I'd be very surprised if like there wasn't a single warning given out previous, but maybe there wasn't. But
Yeah, I might be wrong. I thought there wasn't, and that's why like the point deduction shocked me so much because like, for me at least when I was watching it, I didn't hear like the commentary or like the refs say like any warnings previously, so I was just like, holy hell, like they really took a point from him for like
yeah.
one fence grab.
Yeah, I had him submission, so I was pretty upset he didn't get the finish here. I thought he was going to get it in the second. And even at the end of the first, Brenner looked completely gassed. And did you guys see the weight cutting Brenner video?
I don't know if
You
I
see
did
it?
actually.
Yeah.
When they're like him and his boy were in the like personal sauna together, and everyone was like, "This is a little weird." So I was like, easily lock,
Wasn't
go
that
against
Charles with him?
Brenner.
Gotta
I
do
don't know
what you
who
gotta
was with
do.
him.
I think it was Charles.
I don't know. It was weird. I was
It definitely
Yeah,
was.
bro. If I was on death's doorstep, I want one of my boys to hug me. So
Yeah, that was a tough video to watch. It did not look like he was in good shape for that cut.
no.
I was gonna say,
Um,
speaking of weight cuts, William Gomez though, or
yeah, fight
Gomez,
got
Yeah.
called. That was scary, man. He was weighed in 3 pounds under the limit with all of his
With clothes
clothes
on.
on,
Yeah,
and
so
he
he's
was
like five,
dizzy.
6 pounds.
Did you see he came out and addressed it? He said he was eating the ice cubes from Brazil, like from the hotel, and he thinks that what made him sick.
Do you think he's
oh
got like a
really?
stomach virus or something from that?
That's
And
what he
just
said. I
like,
mean, he might just be covering up maybe his team. I know Ryan, you mentioned in our group chat saying that maybe because of the
Yeah, like
scale error, but
yeah. I
but
mean, originally that's what I thought. I thought maybe like Skeller like to weigh in with full clothes and then like try to make it look like you're gonna make weight. Because like at first, like I think DC said it like in their weigh-in show. He's like, oh, he must be off by like a shit ton if he's wearing clothes. But then and I was like, okay, yeah, DC knows what he's talking about. And then he came in 3 pounds under, and I was like, oh my god, like so like that's what I saw on
I don't,
Twitter. It was like maybe like he thought he was overweight, he was gonna miss weight, and his scale was just off. But you never know.
I
No,
don't know.
I
Like, I think it'd be pretty hard for a scale to be off by like 5, 6 pounds. Like, that just seems like too much for a scale error. Like a scale error. Like a scale error could be like when Charles missed weight against Justin by like what was that by like a pound or whatever. Like
Mhm.
yeah.
that would make more sense for it to be a scale error than it to be off 4, 5, 6 pounds. Like that just seems like too much for you. How do you fuck up that badly? You know?
no, I saw on Twitter that a reporter that was there at the weigh-in said that they heard him throwing up behind the stage.
Yeah. So he was sick.
So
Yeah.
yeah, he probably caught like like food poisoning or something. You know, like
Yeah.
that's probably why. I don't know. That
And
was very strange.
and to go through that while on a weight cut has to just that just has to be absolutely brutal. Like
Oh
literally
my
look like
God,
you're on
yeah.
death doorstep. So I mean, that would add up.
Yeah. All right, guys, let's move on to Jack Shore versus Anderson Brito. Tough one here in a doctor's stoppage. Shore got hit with a nasty leg kick and he lacerated his leg. The doctors, I think, thought that he broke his leg. His team later came out and said they went to the hospital, x-rays. There's no fractures in his leg, so they're upset with the decision. His leg was pouring blood, though. Just a weird one here. I was on Jack Shore. I didn't have any money on it, but I was rooting for him. What did you guys think of this one? Was it a good stoppage in your opinion?
It looked like he got shot in the leg with a gun. I mean, there was just a hole there, blood pouring out of it. I mean, if they want to like, if you want to say that was an early stoppage, yada yada yada, they get separated, he gets kicked in that leg again, dude. I don't know. In my opinion, that fight, those leg kicks were just nasty, and he was chopping them for 8.5 minutes straight. Like, yeah, I feel bad for sure and how it ended, but again, there was literally a hole in his leg. I mean, he's a tough dude, but I don't know. I think the stoppage was fine in my opinion.
I thought maybe a little early just because like you've seen like one-legged fighters, like you've seen guys like they let like people hobble on one leg, after leg kicks. And I get like he was bleeding, but at the same time, it's like we've also seen fighters get like disgusting cuts and just bleed from the head, and they're able to continue for like 8 to 10 minutes after like round one. Strange styles, but I mean Brito was winning that fight at the end of the day. Like he looked
Could have
damn
saved him from
good.
a surgery or something, dude. I don't know. But
Yeah,
yeah, it could have been definitely early, but I just think there would have been so much more damage inflicted on that leg if they didn't stop it. That I think I think
yeah.
it saved him, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like, I think it's a good stoppage in terms of like damage sustained to the fighter, but it's just like at the end of the day, like these guys know their bodies. And I know Jack Shore wanted that fight to continue, especially because like afterwards when they called it, he was just walking around the octagon, no limp, nothing. He looked fine. So like that's what like triggered me. I was just like, oh shit, okay, like this might not be like the greatest of stoppages if Jack Shore is just still walking around like on both legs, no limp. Like he looked like he was still ready to fight, and I think like unless something like extremely serious, like you got to let the fighter try to play that one out.
Yeah, definitely a weird stoppage. I have not seen anything like it since, I've been a fan or even in highlights of old fights. But for me, I'm a big Jack Shore fan, and I don't know where he goes next after this. It obviously hurts him a lot. He's lost 2 of his last 3. Only 2 losses in his MMA career, and both in UFC, but Ricky Simon and now this one. He's 29. What does he do next? He's getting up there.
Yeah, yeah, I don't
Unranked
know
still.
where. Yeah, it's actually like, where does he go next? I honestly have no idea what the matchmakers try to do with him. Like, is it time where they toss him to some guy who's coming off like a Dana White Contender Series win and see what happens there, and they're like, all right, get the job done, or you're in some trouble. I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely a weird spot. When he first came in, I feel like there was a decent amount of hype surrounding him, and definitely going into that Ricky Simon fight, that was a big fight. I think it was a fight night card, and it was like either the main. No, it wasn't the main, but it was on the main card, and I was excited for him. And now it's just kind of like, all right, he's just one of those guys, maybe a journeyman kind of deal where he's just fighting outside the top 15, never really cracking it. So I hope
You
he could
say
bounce back from this, but
I say
still
Cameron
young.
Simon. Yeah, I say to his defense, like Cameron Simon is a good fighter. So I think you get some leeway there on a loss to Cameron Simon. I mean, I know Peyton Talbot just
Ricky
absolutely
Simon.
smoked him, or Peyton Talbot absolutely smoked him when they fought. But still, though, good. I think he's still a young prospect. I mean, 29, yeah, definitely up there in age, but he's still on that like where he can have a resurgence in his career, just
Yeah.
pick up some wins, like especially, and I think it favors him if they give him someone off the Contender Series, like because he's above. I think he's personally, I think he's above that level where like you shouldn't be losing the guys like coming off the Contender Series unless they're just absolute like monsters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I
All right.
mean,
Like a
yeah, go on,
roofie.
Colin.
No, go
Yeah.
ahead, Zach. Go ahead.
I kind of forget what I was gonna say, to be honest. You can just move on.
All right, let's move on to Paul Craig getting knocked out again. Has now lost 4 of his last 5. This one to the hands of Cal Baralho. Man, is Paul Craig just done? Is he washed up now? I mean, I don't really see a path for him climbing the ranks at any point. He just seems like a journeyman, like you just discussed, Luke. This was a tough one for Paul.
Answer me this, Paul Craig. You've had 26 professional fights. How are you unable to incorporate more than one mixed martial art at it, or more than one martial art at a time? Like, the guy could either sit there and just throw punches on his feet, right? Or he'll go in and just lay on his back. Okay, so it's either the jujitsu or your stand up, or he'll just go in and show like mediocre wrestling while not setting it up with any striking at all. Like, it was weird. He was either in a wrestling match or in a kickboxing fight or just laying on his back. Like, I don't know. That was just very weird for me to watch, but I am excited to see what opportunity comes from Kyle Brau next. I mean, like, who he goes against and like what spot on a card. It could be a fight night main event maybe, or I mean, higher up on a pay-per-view. I don't know, but
I was gonna say, yeah, for Kyle, I mean, like, I guess what makes the most sense now is Anthony Hernandez, Fluffy, like both up there in the rankings. I think like Kyle's like 15, Fluffy's maybe 13. So I could see that matchup. Fluffy just had to pull off his fight at a UFC 301 or 302. He's supposed to fight in the Prudential Center, and I think Cal didn't really take much damage. So like getting back in there as soon as possible is probably in his best interest. And in terms of Paul Craig, I think it's just time to hang the gloves up. I mean, he didn't look good in any aspect of that fight, like on the feet or even on the ground. Cal pretty much controlled everywhere that fight went, was standing back up with him after he tried to pull guard. Paul Craig really only had like a leg kick to the body, and then he would just get countered with like a 1-2 straight to the face. So the striking just isn't there, and you can't just rely on jiu-jitsu when you get to that top level.
Yeah. The UFC and all of its fighters have figured Paul Craig out. We're just at that point. Like, we're not going to see any Jamal Hill fights where he's just catching people really anymore. I mean, he's won some fights recently, especially after the move to middleweight, but it's kind of like what is the other guy doing? You know what's going to happen. And I'm a big Paul Craig fan. I want to see him do well, but as you said, like, yeah, he was throwing kicks and it was just like getting countered with the jab, and he had no answer for it. And seems like something you should be training, especially with how prestigious he is on the ground in jiu-jitsu. In terms of what's next for him, I have no clue. Obviously, he's 13 now. They haven't released the new rankings. He's going to drop out because I can't see them putting him over Chris Curtis at 15. And For Barajo, I like the Fluffy fight. Fluffy's good, similar styles. I think that makes for a good fight. Both, both big guys. That's a good one, Ryan. I don't know when that would be.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't know when it would be. Like I said, I know Fluffy. I just had to drop out of his fight at 302,
Yeah.
which is supposed to take place June 1st. So, I mean, if the injury is not, I don't know what the extent of his injury is, but if it's nothing serious, I'm sure he wants to get back in there, and I'm sure Cal wants to get back in there because he took no damage in that fight.
Yeah.
Hey,
And I mean, sorry.
well, I was gonna say, Ryan, I'll tip my cap to you on this as well for calling that KO knockout. You did say Paul Craig is pretty chinny and you didn't trust it, so I'll tip my cap there. You called that one as well.
Yeah, you know what sold for me is when he fought Johnny Walker and he was shooting for a single leg and got hammer fisted TKO'd standing up. Like, there's not too much power going behind those shots, especially when you're trying to defend a single leg and you're just throwing like that. So I was like, if you can get taken out by that, I can't trust your chin anymore.
I think that almost happened to him again in this fight, actually, where he got in a shot on Kyle and he just gave him a couple hammer fists, and then Paul Craig had to reconsider and I think like stood back up on the feet with him. He probably got some PTSD there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and Craig's doing the grappling on the side, like the other events. So I don't know how all in he is to pushing for his UFC career. This was kind of the last hurrah. And if he goes unranked again, I don't know. Maybe he just calls it soon. I mean, he's definitely been around for a minute and he's put on some great moments in the UFC, but how much
Who
more?
win, who wins in a fight, Paul Craig or Bo Nickel?
Bo Nickel.
Bo Nickel.
You think Bo Nickel beats him? You don't think Craig like
I
sub something crazy?
I mean,
I
it's
think
probably it's
Because
a
for Bo to
good.
win, he's gonna have to take him down to the ground, right? Like, I mean, yeah, honestly, he might be
Uh,
just as good of a striker.
he's
Actually,
better. I think he's better than Paul Craig everywhere. I mean, obviously the jujitsu's not there, but on the ground, I think Bo Nickel could stay out of danger enough with his wrestling.
yeah, he just keep his
I,
arms
I
tight.
I think that was one of the fights I said after 300 that I wanted to see. I think it's still a jump for Bo, so we'll see. But
I think to advance Bo's career, I think that's like perfect fight. If you don't give
yeah,
him
He can
like
go in
some
there.
up and coming Russian, like you give him Paul Craig, a guy who is just inside the rankings, and if you want to build up that name, then
do you think it matters that he will be outside of the rankings at that fight? I think
No,
the number next to the name does matter a little bit for Bo's next fight.
uh
I don't think regardless he's going inside the rankings. To be honest with
Okay.
you, it's going to be someone outside of the rankings regardless, and I think it was going to be more someone that was like not mainstream for his next fight. So since I don't think he's going inside the rankings anyways, I think the fight does make sense and it is winnable and it is a guy with a big name, even though it is Paul Craig. So like, I think
yeah,
that fight could make sense as well well, I mean, not for Paul Craig, but for
Maybe
Bo.
we should give Sean Shelby a call.
yeah,
Yeah,
right.
let him know.
All right,
I think
gentlemen,
that
let's move on. Michel Pereira with a submission with 54 seconds over Ihor Bateria. And this was almost a backflip knockout. I'm sure you guys have all
would
seen
have
this.
been no
It was
contest.
almost a backflip DQ, bro. Like
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, yeah, it would
Michelle
have been a
Pereira is an
DQ. It was very
absolute
close.
idiot.
It
Talk
was very
about fight
close.
IQ, bro. Talk about fight IQ. You can't even kick a grounded opponent to the head. So you're gonna do a backflip on top of his head where your knee can hit him in the head. Like, dude, you knock the dude down. Just go and finish the fight. Like, I know you like to do exciting stuff, but you just got yourself DQ'd in what was almost one of the easiest fights in your career, bro. Like, I don't know. Use your head. His coaches are idiots. Like, he's done it in the past. How have his coaches not been like, hey, bro, don't do that again? Like, you know what happens if you land that? You're fucked. You're gonna get DQ'd. I don't understand how that hasn't been instilled in him yet and why they let him do it. It doesn't make any sense to me, but domination from Michelle nonetheless. I mean, the knockdown and the submission, but he got very lucky there.
yeah, middleweight definitely has a new contender coming up. You're right, Zach. I mean, he can't. You just can't do that when you're guys. When you have a guy, when you knock a guy down, you can't try to backflip kick him. I don't even know like what he's going for there in terms
He
of
just has to look
target,
for
where
it.
it's body or head. Because if he's going for the head, you do that in a title fight, it's getting called immediately. You know, where you're the contender, it's getting called immediately. Like
Yeah.
that's it. Like you get definitely way more leeway when you're fighting an unranked opponent, both unranked opponents at middleweight, and you're just trying to put on a show for your home crowd. But probably should take that one out of his arsenal.
Yeah,
The
they were
back,
talking about it after the
yeah.
fight. They were talking about it for like a good like 5 minutes or so before they
No,
announced him via submission.
yeah,
Like
I
they were
say
there.
I genuinely think like the judges and like maybe the commission were debating on calling that a like a no contest or a DQ.
Yeah, I
You know,
think they were too. And then they were like, "Oh, if we do that, these crazy Brazilians might start throwing cans at us. So like, let's just let them get away with the submission and call it there." I don't know. It seemed
yeah,
like they were
like
definitely debating something because it doesn't usually take 5 to 10 minutes to go and raise a dude's hand after he subs him in a few seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, like Ryan, like you said, we have a new contender for sure. He's on an 8 fight win streak. I know that's between welterweight and middleweight, and I feel like we were kind of robbed of a Wonder Boy fight against him because that would have been
yeah,
fireworks. In terms of who's next, I think this is the same kind of conversation we were having before. Like, I would love to see him against like a Fluffy Hernandez, but
hmm
we're like crossing that guy off. So who do you think next?
it's hard. I mean, I would say if you want to get him in the rankings, Chris Curtis at number 15, but Chris
Yeah,
just tore his hamstring when he fought Brendan Allen, so
yeah,
he's not going to be around for a little while at least. And then Michel Pereira once again finished first round in under a minute, so no damage sustained there. So
yeah. I'm
I'd
looking
have
at it and
to
I'm trying to think of like the guys who already don't have fights. Like 6 through
Nasruddin
11 are kind of like I don't think the styles make good fights, but I think Vittori would be a great fight. I know that's
Vittori.
really jumping the rankings, but that'd be interesting.
I I like the Vittori fight. If you have it up, what's Nasruddin Imamov ranked right now? Because I
He's
know
at 8.
he's at 8. Okay.
So if you like that,
I'm saying if you want to get him back early and get him on that fight card in France, I think it's in September. You could push that. Just minimal time off, come back in a couple months, see another fight, and maybe try to get your way into the rankings.
yeah. I just think it's one of those where it's like a great move to middleweight. Obviously he missed. I forget how far off he was for the Wonder Boy fight, but it was like significant. That's why Wonder Boy said no, which I know there's kind of MMA media split on how they feel about that. For me, Wonder Boy in his old age, I'm not fighting a guy that's missing weight by that much. He doesn't need the money,
No,
so I think the move up was needed. And he's shining.
no,
8-0 in his
definitely
Yeah,
last
not.
8.
And
I
I
think
think
he
Wonder
missed weight.
Boy,
I think it was 3 pounds that he missed weight by against Wonder Boy,
yeah, and I
Which
think
isn't
Wonder
which
Boy
terrible.
said it
which
best.
is
I think
it's
Wonder Boy said it best in terms of like Wonder Boy said it. He was like, I'm like almost 40 years old and I'm giving a guy an opportunity to jump up in the rankings. So for you to miss weight, it's just you know what I mean? Like you missed your opportunity to fight me. I'm ranked
Yeah.
here. And now Wonder Boy's only looking forward, which I think is good for his career. I mean, you have this much time, you have such a finite amount of time left. So try to fight up as much as possible. And maybe if you want to still chase gold, try to get a title fight.
does
Yeah,
it really
he's
make that much sense for Wonder Boy to fight up though? Like he just kind of got dominated by Shavkat, so it's like, what are you fighting up towards? Like I don't know. Like what are you striving towards? What's that end goal by fighting up? You know what I'm saying? Like the end goal if you're fighting up is always to go for that gold, and Shavkat literally just shut that down pretty quick. So I mean, I don't know. Like I'd rather see him personally. This might be selfish as well. I'd rather see him getting into some like nice, fun, stylistic fights, and
Well,
just
I
to see him
think
go out there and have some winnable matchups more
you
so than
might
fighting up.
you might get your
yeah,
wish because I think the next one they're targeting is Stephen Thompson MVP. So just two
yeah.
karate stance fighters.
And boys, which is always an interesting. They're boys, so it's an
Yeah.
interesting concept in MMA and anything. You don't want to go against your boys. They've been training together, I've heard, for like 10 plus years. So I don't know. That adds another story to a fight night or a main event, but you hate to see it because they're not going to be the same level of
Yeah.
friends.
I don't
You
even
think
think it's
they
that. I think you see it split 50-50 on those where it's like either they know they're boys and they come in and it's like you think you're going to get the spectacular performance and they're just gun shy because
Yeah,
it's like they just look across the octagon and all I see is like this is my dog. Like I'm not trying to
their
hurt him.
sparring partner?
Yeah.
You think they both know, like, all right, like, or you think they both know who's gonna win that fight? Like, you've been doing it for 10 years, you've been sparring for 10 years. I know a fight's a fight, anything can happen, but like, in the back, one of them has to get the better than the other one while they're sparring. So you'd think like one of them's like, fuck,
Oh yeah, I mean
I gotta do this.
absolutely. But what I like about it is just like I'm not, you know what I mean? I haven't seen them spar, so let them go at it and I'll find out as a fan. It's a
Yeah,
mystery to
well
me.
said.
I will say that Wonder Boy's like probably the coolest dude in the UFC. If there's someone that can handle it, it's probably Wonder Boy.
that's
You know,
true.
Like I like the commercial with the tequila commercial of him and
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 Kevin
they're
Holland.
fighting
Yeah.
and and then they put the glass on their heads. Like that is Wonder Boy. I feel like that's what would happen with MVP if they did it. It'd be
Yeah.
pretty funny. All right, guys, let's move on. Lionheart Smith still has some gas in the tank. A submission 2 minutes in the first round. What was Vidor doing here, man? The jumping Gilly. I'm sure Dustin Poirier was very excited watching this fight. And I'm a little pissed about it because now Anthony Smith has some ammo to talk shit to Alex Pereira, saying that he would submit him in the post-fight
Brutal.
conference. And I'm like, damn, I'm not a big Lionheart Smith fan, but the guy backed it up. He did get a submission, although Vidor kind of handed it to him in a sense. But your guys' thoughts on what Smith could do next?
What Smith could do next, I mean, nothing special. I don't know. I can't wait to see this guy be gone. I can't stand Anthony Smith. I can't stand hearing him talk. I don't like his face. Like, there's nothing about him that I like. But what I will say is, let's circle back to this fight IQ thing. Petrino is a damn idiot, bro. So you go out here and you want to take this out, head outside double leg. You feel him coming for your neck, and you're like, okay, now I'm gonna pick him up and expose my neck. What the fuck are you doing, bro? And then he has your neck, and you're like, okay, now I'm going to put him on the ground and sub myself. Made absolutely no sense to me, but I will say he was getting his legs chopped up before that, and he was limping even after he got subbed. So I guess that probably played a major part of why he did it. But yeah, I've seen enough of Anthony Smith as well. I don't know.
I don't know, man. I mean, respect's due. I mean, Anthony Smith had said all week, like, there's levels to this game, and like, I'm still here to prove that I'm a top dog in this division, like, newcomer or not. And that he got it done inside of round one. So that's obviously like that's a very, Jesus Christ, that's a hard thing to do. So, I mean, what's next for Anthony Smith? I guess you maybe take another shot at the title. I mean, that's what he's done before. Like, on paper, blah blah blah. I could beat Alex Pereira. On paper, I should have beat John Smith.
Actually, no, give him a shot at the title so he can eat a left hook, and actually we can get rid of him.
No, because Anthony Smith, like, wow, talks all this game. He doesn't have the fight IQ of like 20. So I could actually see Anthony Smith just trying to make that, like, I'm gonna take Pereira to the ground and actually test him, like, with his grappling and like submission defense and everything. I don't think you want to see that fight, personally. I think Alex Pereira smokes him, but I think we said this on our 301 recap pod, where it's just like, until someone tests Alex Pereira on the ground, I'm always gonna bet for him. But he does have very obvious holes in his game, especially with the grappling and like the wrestling defense and everything. So
I mean,
we'll see.
Jan tested him on the ground, took him down for the whole first period, and Pereira fared well there. He defended there's no real submission threats that were serious. And that's a big freaking dude, big strong dude on top of you too, that, I mean, knows what he's doing. So I don't know. I think Pereira's all right.
I will say this though, Yuri's is talking about moving down the middleweight because he didn't cut any weight for his last fight with Rakic. So he's still smaller for the weight class, and I think Alex is fucking huge for that weight class.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think a lot left to be said at light heavyweight. I think talking about putting Anthony Lionheart Smith into title contention right now is blasphemy.
No.
Oh yeah, 100%.
No, but it's not just this, like, not just this conversation. Like, all over MMA media, they're talking about it. He's talking about it. He's on ESPN. Saying what he says, and it's like, Alex Pereira's not worried about you. You're 10 right now. 1 through 7 have better chances. Khalil Roundtree, who just beat you, is going to get a title shot before you. Even with the loss to Jamal Hill, I think he could bounce back, win a couple fights, and get there faster than Anthony Smith can. I don't know. I think more from Petrino's side, he's so young still. I think he's 26. He's been in the UFC for, I think, a handful of fights. This is a learning curve. And like Anthony Smith said, like, there's levels to this, and Petrino's going to be just fine. But he is a specimen. He's the type of guy you're like, if we're going into a bar knowing we're getting in a fight, you want him in your corner. Obviously not if Anthony Smith is the guys you're fighting, but still. I was surprised. I think the line was huge for this. I'm not a huge fan of Anthony Smith, but I do respect him. He's been in there for the last 10 years with killers at the top of that division, and he continues to, lose a couple and come back with a couple wins and allows himself to talk that talk. I don't know what he does next. I think we have to wait a couple months to see what plays out towards the top of this light heavyweight division. But impressive win from Anthony Smith. He still got it. So
I
I was
will
gonna
say,
say
I think you. Oh,
Anthony
you can go
Smith
on.
will
Ryan.
like always sorry. Anthony Smith will always like hold like a decent place in my heart just because he fought John Jones for the title and got legally kneed against the cage, grounded opponent, and he was getting the shit kicked out of him. And he decided like, hey, I'm gonna continue to fight. When he could have pulled the Aljamain Sterling move, and that fight ends, and Anthony Smith holds gold, but he didn't
Yeah.
want to do it that way.
And the story with the homeless dude or the crackhead that broke into his house and it was like he had to stand between him and his daughter's room and like beat the fuck out of that guy. Like
Yeah,
you just respect. He's a dude. And he's getting older and he still goes in there and he fights a lot. He's active. So I respect him a lot. Was surprised to bet against him here, but good for him. We'll see what
Uh,
happens.
I think you said it well earlier, Luke, where you're like, Petrino is young and he will be fine. And Anthony Smith said that after the fight too, where he's like, the guy was inexperienced, and I knew once he went on that double, he was gonna try to finish it because that's what a guy does that hasn't lost. He hasn't been there before. He doesn't have that experience, and yeah, that will be a big learning curve for him. And I do think he'll be all right too.
I say, do you think they give Petrino another shot at the rankings for his next fight?
Probably not. I mean, maybe Ryan Spann at 15, he could use a win against a guy with one loss, but
Yeah,
we'll see. I think he needs to get back in the gym and train a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if he takes some time off. He's young, 26. He could spend 6 months getting better and come
yeah,
back and go on a run. So
yeah. Honestly, this is probably the best thing that probably could have happened for Petrino, just
yeah,
because like you get like that learning curve experience where he knows now that he's been in this situation and like you test an old vet,
yeah,
they might pull something out on you that you've never seen before. Because I mean, he tapped, but I mean, you look at like his tab in the Jakar Close, like a guy who's been in like multiple UFC fights, has like years of experience on the roster, and he's caught in pretty much the same guillotine, goes for that, and it looks tight, and he doesn't tap. He just works some other moves. Even Volkanovski, for example, when he fought Brian Ortega, I think like that's just something that like you have to learn how to get out of like through experience.
yeah.
I agree. Lionheart Smith closed as a plus 425 dog, so that was a massive upset. Not in my parlays, but I'm sure I know Drock cashed in pretty well on Lionheart Smith on that one. Let's move on to the co-main event, a Jose Aldo masterclass versus Jonathan Martinez. A unanimous decision win. Obviously, he has not fought in nearly 2 years. He was boxing, and the boxing looked real good in this one. Your guys' thoughts on this fight, how Jose Aldo looked, and they were talking about could he cut the line and get a title shot if Sean O'Malley were to win. I think that's a little out there, but Jose Aldo is a legend. I think they're just excited that he looked that good. But what's next for Jose Aldo, and what do you guys think of this fight?
He looked like prime Jose Aldo. He looked fast. Like I know Jose Aldo's fast and everything, but damn, dude, he looked good. He just looked like himself from 6 years ago, 8 years ago. I love that, but I don't know if he really I don't know how well he bodes in that O'Malley fight now, but
Oh no, dude, title shots way too soon. I mean, he just beat Martinez, who's like was ranked like number 15. You're getting back in there, but he's definitely earned the case where he can jump up. I think since the UFC's released the pound for pound list, he's like one of 9 fighters to go on like to be number 1 pound for pound. So like he's earned his place in the UFC, and if he wants to call for like maybe like a title eliminator, I could see that if he fights like a Corey Sandhagen, because like this guy has wins over Marlon Vera, who just fought for the title, Pedro Munoz, Rob Font, all guys who are now going to be ranked above him, but he beat in pretty clear fashion. So he can call his shot, definitely. I mean, like I said, title eliminator against, or not title eliminator, but a title shot against Sean O'Malley way too soon. Like that's not the like that's pretty much out of the picture. But you give him
I
like a
like
guy
him.
in the top 3, 4, Peter Yan,
That's what I was
like
gonna say. I like that matchup with Piotr.
yeah,
Well,
I
I
think that
saw
could
Pu-
make
that.
some sense.
Piotr did beat the brakes off of him though
Yeah,
when they
he
fought.
did. I saw
Yeah,
that Jose Aldo was interested in fighting Cejudo before this fight got announced, and that was something he was looking at. They're both up there
I
in
like
age.
that.
Cejudo coming off 2 losses, two big names, former champions. I think that'd be a cool fight to see.
It's a
but
great co-main event fight.
I
I
love
feel
that
like
fight.
it's so difficult for Aldo to get a title shot just given the dudes that have beaten him above, like even if I guess if O'Malley beats Marab, like Marab still beat him like a couple years ago, and And then again, like what you just said with Piotr beat him up pretty badly. So like it is kind of difficult to try to get the vet that title shot, you know?
Yeah,
I
it's
do.
just a stacked division. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah, it is.
all killers. I like that. I
yeah,
do like that Cejudo fight. I mean, because when him and Marab fought, Jose was able to keep it off the ground. Marab just beat him on volume, like just outworked him. And credit to Marab's cardio. I mean, he has some of the most insane cardio you've ever seen, like out of a fighter.
yeah,
So and Cejudo was able, or Marab was able to take Cejudo to the ground. So that is a very interesting matchup in terms of
yeah.
like Jose Aldo being like the big anti wrestler that he is and having like such a great takedown defense. We'll
Yeah.
see.
I think for me, it's like you said, like obviously this is a great to see Jose Aldo. He looked great. I think the time away helped him. He's done with his UFC contract. He has been boxing. So I don't know where he goes. There's the world of combat sports is at a weird place. Guys are bouncing around from all different types of things. While I look at the rankings, and I saw a video on Instagram today, someone saying he should fight Dominic Cruz as kind of like the old heads, and then maybe jump. They said that they agreed with us that the title contention or jumping the line is not accurate right now with just how stacked this division is. I mean, there's five guys
Oh,
here like they could easily fight for the title tomorrow. You know,
the other one I thought that would have been good is Davis and Figueredo.
I like that too. I was looking because he's one under Cejudo at 6 right now. Um, I think Cejudo just sells more. To be honest with
Is
you,
he?
just both of them being great champions. I don't know if Cejudo was ever number one pound for pound, but he was definitely up there.
Oh yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Isn't he fighting Figgy, or is that not happening? I know
Figgy's
it was getting
fight
talked
hasn't got a
about.
fight announced yet,
I
so
know they
I
were
don't think.
talking about potentially Cejudo Figgy. I don't know. I guess that did not get announced. I thought it did. I'm wrong there.
Yeah, I haven't
Does,
heard
Ceju-
anything on that front, but
does Cejudo not have anything announced either? Is he still waiting around?
I believe so. I believe Cejudo is nothing on the horizon. He said he's not done, but I'll into it right now, but that would be
As
a
I
great
said,
fight. I think just thinking about it now, it's just Cejudo versus Jose Aldo co-main event. You could throw that on 90% of cards. It's going to be the top 3 fights on a card.
with the
So
way that Aldo looked, I was actually very happy that he didn't just decide to retire. I
me
was
too.
like,
I saw a
man,
lot of speculation there, like he should have retired end of his contract, Brazil. Like he should have just hung him up there. I'm like, he didn't come back to the UFC to finish out his contract to retire. You know,
mm,
I think a lot of people forget that these guys are best athletes in the world and even better competitors. The last thing they want to ever do is hang it up. That's not something that they go in saying, "Oh, I can't wait to stop fighting." If they could, they would fight to their death, and we know that from watching and following them, listening to them talk. You're not normally not retiring on a win, especially that fashion against a ranked opponent. So
Well said, brother. I 100% agree with you. He looked too good to hang him up. All
yeah,
right, guys, let's move on to the finale, the main event. Alexandre Pantoja retains his flyweight title versus Steve Urseg, a controversial one. Ryan, I know you were calling your boy Urseg. You did not switch it up on us. You stuck true to your word. And ultimately, the judges gave rounds 1, 3, and 5 to Pantoja. Ryan, you have a problem with that third round, though. And it seemed
I
like,
do. I
yeah, I
do.
know you
That
do.
round three between all three judges is sick. I mean, I could see in a world where like a judge gives round three to Pantoja between like the control on the side and the grappling, but at the end of the day, like this is all scored based off of damage. It's the number one priority. And Urseg hit him with that nasty elbow, sliced him open, had the more significant shots of that round. And you saw it. Ursig lands that elbow. Pantoja pushes up for a takedown, like a desperation takedown, next to the cage, and he's grabbing his head.
I
Like,
think you're just seeing where he was bleeding from, to be completely honest with you. I mean, I think he felt something here and he was like, all right, where's this coming from? Let me feel this. I don't honestly don't think it was anything more than that. And like, you want to talk about damage? I think damage, yes. All right, he cut him open. You hit an elbow like right here. It's literally skin and bone. It's got to split. It's got to bleed. I think blood looks worse than it is. In my opinion, damage is at no point did he ever have Pantoja in legitimate trouble where he was close to finishing him. So like I think the damage is a little overvalued. I think you're trying to. I think you think there's more damage than there was because of the blood. To be completely honest with you, and then he got controlled for a few minutes on the ground. So I don't know.
Look, look, maybe, but at the end of the day, right? It's like Urseg on the feet was landing the better shots. It's not only that elbow; he was clipping him, countering him every time Pantoja rushed with one of his head down, like just blitzes. Urseg, like clearly you could see it. He was just clipping him, finding his shots. That left hook was there. He was rocking him a little bit. Definitely didn't have him in like any crazy trouble. I agree with you on that. Didn't have him in any crazy trouble, but at the end of the day, it's like if you're gonna base the scoring off of damage, like over ground control, which it was in the past.
it's not so. It's not solely just damage over ground control though. It's the amount of damage. It's prioritized, but if you have 3 minutes of ground control compared to like this little split second of damage, at what point does the ground control take over? And in this fight, it clearly did. I mean, if
Oh yeah, so
Usyk didn't
I
try to
mean,
force 2 takedowns, he would have won the fight.
well, absolutely, that's in the fifth. I'm saying that's in the fifth round, like where Urseg shot those. Like I don't know why he shot those. I mean, if he didn't shoot if Urseg doesn't shoot those takedowns in the fifth round, he wins the fight absolutely
He would have. And there
because
was
it's
one
the
in the
same
third
way.
round too, where he ended
But
up giving
he
up
ended up on
control
the
and more control time.
yeah. But I'm saying like what screwed him there was like Pantoja pushed up against the cage after that initial elbow in a fight that he's clearly winning, and then he couldn't take it back. But my point is that Pantoja really did nothing in that third round with his takedown. He didn't throw any shots. He was just hugging, going from side control to half guard, but just holding him down. And I mean, like, I get that. Like, it does look bad from a fighter's perspective, but like when you base judging off of damage, just holding someone on the ground after getting clipped multiple times and then getting your head sliced open, I don't think like that should sway the round for the judges to put it in your favor. And
I
also
mean, I
that
think
49-46 scorecard is
that one's
egregious.
off. That one's off. I don't agree with that one. But at the end of the day, Usyk was in a compromised position and was unable to get out of it. And you're getting held down against your will, brother. Like, I don't know. That's
Right.
that seems pretty dominating to me. I thought that third round was very close, and I thought a judge or two could have given it to Urseg, and I was a little nervous about that going into it or going down later in the fight since I was on Pantoja. But I do see him winning that round, and even more so, I think Urseg's corner did him a disservice by telling him he was down 0-3 going into the fourth, and then you're sitting there. Maybe that's why Urseg forced a desperation shot in the fifth. I don't know,
Yeah,
but
no, you're definitely right. Like
even
that could easily
Pantoja's
play
corner.
in.
Pantoja's corner as well, I did not think did a very good job telling him that he was up 3-0 after three when I did not think he was, because then he kind of sat there in
He
the fourth and just
coasted.
got picked
Yeah,
apart.
he
Yeah.
coasted. He coasted in the fourth,
So,
thinking maybe I'll edge out this decision, like 3-2. But no, yeah,
yeah,
definitely a disservice on both parts in
yeah,
those
definitely.
corners.
Definitely. But
Telling your contender that he's down 3-0. I mean, I know you're trying to spark that fire, but Urseg was looking very well. And then if you have to like try to convince him that he needs to headhunt for a knockout, he's gonna fight different. He's gonna chase. He's gonna do like all these other reckless things. But
yeah, which at the end of the day, he just did not need to do in that fifth round. I mean, you're sitting there, and before he took that shot, that round was completely even as far as significant strikes went. It was like 14-14 or something like that, with Urseg doing more damage with his shots. So he was winning that fifth round before
Mhm.
that. So I don't know. It's just that going back to the fight IQ being low on this card, it seems like it was half the fights you're looking at one of the fighters being like, dude, what are you doing?
But then again, I mean, like, yeah, definitely like low fight IQ, but I also chalked it up to more of like inexperience more than anything. Just because,
Yeah.
you're in your fourth UFC fight fighting for a title and you find yourself in the fifth round against a guy who's considered one of the best, like the lightweights have ever had to offer, and you got him there. And it's a close fight, and you have your corner telling you you're down 3 rounds. You know you won I mean, Usyk had to have known he won the fourth. He probably
Yeah,
thought like,
definitely.
I get this guy out there. This is it.
Yeah. Yeah, just looking at the numbers, I think the numbers are actually more skewed than I thought. They landed the same amount of strikes, but Pantoja outstruck him 143 to 129. Pantoja had 47% of his takedowns, 9 of 19, only 1 for 6 for Urseg, and significant strikes 125 to 111. And an interesting thing, I know we were arguing a little bit earlier about the fifth round. Going into the fifth round, they're even on significant strikes. 1 and 3 in favor of Pantoja and 2 and 4 in favor of Urseg. So it really did come down to that fifth round. I know the damage, we talked about it, and I agree. I see your side with and that was a big part of the O'Malley Yan fight. O'Malley cut him open. And I think that played a big role in that fight. But we've seen many times where dudes are bloodied and they've controlled in later rounds and they win fights. And I think that's kind of what happens here. And I know a lot of people hate to talk about it, but the champion, you have to go and beat the champion. I didn't think
Yeah.
Usyk did enough in that fight to be crowned champ. Obviously, the fifth round, I think he made some bad calls. But even if I just didn't think that they're ever going to give it. UD was a little bit surprising. I thought it was going to be a split. But I thought I'm seeing online that it's a robbery. I don't think it can consider robbery. That's also what I don't like about MMA coverage. Everyone calls everything a robbery nowadays. Like
Yeah, it's true.
that wasn't a
Yeah,
robbery.
true.
No, that wasn't a robbery by any means at all.
And I'm also sick of people talking shit of the flyweight division. The level of mixed martial arts at the flyweight division for the last 5 years in championship fights has been outstanding. From the Figueiredo Moreno wars to everything Pantoja has done has been master classes of MMA. They just don't knock each other out because they're light. But you
Yeah,
can't
no,
tell me you watch
absolutely.
those scrambles and
Absolutely.
you're like MMA is one of the best sports ever, like ever to
Yeah.
watch.
I'm
It
also
was,
done with people calling Pantoja boring because
oh,
that
dude,
guy
he's
goes out
great.
there
No,
and
he's
there's
great in the
action
chin.
every single second of the fight. They're throwing hands. One guy's pressing the other. They get into these exciting scrambles or rolling around. He's a warrior. People calling
He's a
him
warrior.
boring people calling him boring just want to see flash KOs and
Yeah.
come on, like that's absolutely ridiculous to me. That whole fight was exciting from the second it started to the second it
Yeah.
ended.
And
Yeah.
I was impressed with Usyk. I actually obviously you don't know too much about him. Only 3 UFC fights. My buddy Chase was huge on him all week, so we were going back all week about this. And he said Usyk is gold medalist in Australia, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't know that, and I thought I was like, doesn't matter. Pantoja's like, if not one of the best on the ground jiu-jitsu guys. The backpacking, he's probably got the best backpack in the MMA right now, or in the UFC at least. And I thought he held his own very well. Obviously, Pantoja was always on the more dominant side, but the scrambles were just insane. Like they're
I
always
do I do
I
think
was
Usyk
happy.
is a future champ.
oh,
Go
for
ahead.
sure, for sure. I think they're
I,
gonna run this back. I think even
I was
if
gonna
Yeah,
say, I
Pantoja
think
wins a close one again, you'll see it 3 times.
I was
yeah,
gonna say
he'll
Usyk
get his
Usyk's
strap.
one
He'll get
fight.
his strap.
Usyk. If he decides to wait, I could see them giving him another title fight. But if he doesn't, he's one fight away from another title shot
Couldn't agree
easily.
more.
Because if not, like, who's gonna get that title shot against Pantoja if like they don't give it back to? Does Usyk jump up higher in the rankings after that fight? He has to, right? After losing, is he gonna like come
Yeah,
in as
I
like the
mean,
ranked like fourth, third, or fifth contender? Like I don't know where you jump
I
into.
I don't
Yeah.
know how that works because I mean, like obviously, like he lost at the end of the day, but he was also ranked number 10 and took the champion to like what would be like a controversial decision. You know, he made it a close fight, scrappy
Yeah.
fight. So I'm not sure, but like I think he'll jump his way up in the rankings, but
Yeah, that's so interesting. Jumping
probably
up after a loss, like you kind of has
Yeah.
to. I mean, he's clearly not the number 10th ranked contender. He's better than that. We just saw it.
No. Yeah, he'll
yeah. I
jump
mean,
after a loss. I don't
he
think.
looked a lot better than Raw Dog.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And also like the disrespect on Pantoja in the pound for pound rankings. He's 10. Dricus is in front of him. Max Holloway, obviously love him.
Wild.
It's hard to say. Bulk, hard to say he's above him. O'Malley and Tapourier.
I
And
mean, those are
obviously,
subject to change.
yeah,
Tuesday, those change on Tuesday. So
100%. But it would be hard to see him jumping 5 spots. But like
I see him maybe
Islam's
jumping a spot in there. Like he's gonna jump
Islam's better
Dricus.
than him. John Jones is better than him. I would say Leon's a better pound for pound guy, and I would say Pereira right now. But other than that, like I know flyweight's always considered one of the worst divisions, but he's cleaned out like the top 7. Like, what else can you do?
He has. And he said he might want to take a break after this fight too. Like I don't know where this division goes next. I don't know who he fights next.
Makaev, he fights Muhammad Makaev.
You think?
It's the only guy he hasn't mopped up on his way to the title. I mean, he's beat Mel Cape, he's beat Moreno 3 times, he beat
Yeah.
Royval twice. It's Matt Schnell, Tejas Nicolau. It's the only guys like it's the only guy he's beat. I mean, besides like maybe Amir Albazi. I don't know what's going on with Amir, but
Yeah, Amir's at 3 right now, so that's what makes the most sense. I don't think they fought, right?
I don't think so. No.
um,
But then again, I mean, like the controversy around Amir Albazi is his fight with Kai Kara France, where
Yep.
he kind of got gifted a decision. So like a lot of people call that a robbery. I mean, I do too. I thought Kai clearly won that fight, but he ended up pulling away with it on the judges' scorecards. So
we'll see. And there's some dudes coming up in the rankings too in that weight class that can make it interesting. I think just the top of that division is just so entertaining and such a high level of MMA, as are all divisions. But just when the knockouts are rare, you see how good the grappling is, the striking is, the defense is. It's just entertaining to me.
No, yeah,
Every time.
absolutely. They put
And
on
even the
bangers.
gas tanks too. Even the gas
Gas
tanks too.
tanks, yeah.
Like they're not gassing as quickly. They're going 25 minutes. Like that's the thing about Pantoja too. Like that guy looks tired when he's just not.
Yeah.
He sits there and
Yeah.
kind of like the way he like walks around the octagon. Like that guy looks tired, but he goes all 25 minutes. And I mean, we saw that last night.
But I say I'm happy for this fight because it reminds me of like all the prospects coming up in the flyweight division between like Joshua Van and Tetsuya Taira. They got you got a couple of dogs coming your way, making their way
Yeah.
up in the rankings, and they put on
I'm not even
exciting
gonna try
fights.
to pronounce the dude's name, but it's like, no, I guess I have to try Sumajardi. I don't know. You
Oh
know what I'm
yes,
talking about?
Sumaderji. No, Sumaderji
Yeah.
sucks, bro. He
You think he
sucks.
sucks? I've been entertained by his fights so far.
He puts on exciting fights, right? But he lost to Matt Schnell after clipping him twice, and Matt Schnell's known to be
That's true.
chinny. And then he lost to Tim Elliott like round 2 or round 1 submission.
Maybe I'm wrong there then.
I think Sumaderji's on the back end of. I mean, he can definitely work his way up. He puts on exciting fights, but the skill gap's been shown.
He's at 14 right now. So
All right, guys, that wraps up the UFC 301 recap. We got UFC 302 on June 1st. So we'll be back later in the month, potentially another episode if we get a lot of fight news. But thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you soon.